everyone, and welcome to day 2 of quarantine storytelling with me, Christina. You all responded very passionately towards my last post, so I figured we might as well keep it going. If you can tell from the background music, we are going to be taking a story today that takes place in Eastern Europe. Most specifically, this story takes place in Moscow, Russia, and actually probably more rural Russia, but eventually ends up in Moscow, Russia. It is called Rechenka's Eggs by Patricia Polacco. It was originally published in 1988, and I believe that I heard about Rechenka's Eggs from a story of Reading Rainbow, an old episode of Reading Rainbow. So shout out to LeVar Burton and all the folks at PBS for bringing this book into my life. In this book, you're going to have two main characters. The first main character is going to be Babushka, which is Russian or Ukrainian for grandmother. And then the second main character is going to be Rechenka, which is her pet goose. In the story, you're going to be learning a little bit of how Pysanky, or these beautiful decorative eggs, are created. These Pysanky are created throughout Eastern Europe for Easter. They are incredibly intricate and highly detailed. There's so much folklore behind them as to what the shapes and the different colors mean that you can put on them, that they can bring good luck into your home, but you also don't want to leave them out in case a witch finds them. They are incredibly important and beautiful part of Eastern European culture. The music just died, but that's all right. And I will include information of how Pysanky is made in the comments below, as well as a whole bunch of information and activities that you can do with your kids at home. So without further ado, let's go ahead and read one of my favorite books, Rechenka's Eggs. Babushka lived alone in a dasha, a little house in the country. But she was known far and wide for the fine eggs she lovingly painted. Her eggs were so beautiful that she always won first prize at the Easter festival in Moscow. Moscow is, I believe, the Russian pronunciation for Moscow. Each day, Babushka would take the shell of an egg from her basket and paint it with wonderful designs, using shapes of stars and flowers, triangles and circles. Through the long, cold winter, Babushka painted. Then one day, after a snowstorm, Babushka went outside. She could still hear the faint sound of falling snow. It was a sound like a soft rain. Herds of caribou came to feed at Babushka's because the grasses they usually ate were covered with snow. A miracle, she whispered as she fed some. These wild things have found their way to me. Just then, a flock of noisy geese honked loudly overhead. As they glided over the snow, one of them faltered and fell from the sky. Babushka went to where the goose lay, crumpled in the snow. A hunter did this, Babushka grumbled. She carefully picked up the goose and took it back to her little house. There she fed the little goose from her own table and put the goose in her best basket, lined with the warmest quilt from her bed. I shall name you a good name, one that we can both like, eh, my little friend? As she patted the goose's head. How do you like Rechenka? Yes? Then Rechenka it shall be. With Babushka's care, Rechenka grew stronger each day as each day passed. To repay her kindness, Rechenka laid an egg for breakfast every morning. As Rechenka got better, she waddled around the little house, exploring every nook, cranny, and cupboard. One day, she jumped on top of Babushka's work table, overturning the jars of bright-colored paint she used to color the eggs. "Neat!" Babushka screamed as she chased the goose with a broom. "No!" The frightened goose flapped her wings to get away and knocked the basket of eggs that Babushka had so lovingly painted. The eggs crashed onto the floor and shattered into a million pieces. They were both very sad. There was no reason for Babushka to go to the festival. The next morning, Babushka slowly got out of bed and trundled over to Rechenka's basket to get her morning egg. But when she reached into the middle of the quilt, she picked out the most brilliantly colored egg she had ever seen. "A miracle," Babushka whispered. "A miracle." She made small holes in both ends of the eggs and blew the yolk and white into the dish to cook and eat later for breakfast. Then she held the egg up to the morning light and marveled at its beauty. After that, every morning for 12 mornings, there was another egg, each more beautiful than the one that had been laid the day before. Soon, Babushka had enough eggs to take to the festival in Moskva. How wonderful, she thought. A miracle had replaced the eggs that had been broken. "Spring is here, my little friend," Babushka said to Rechenka the morning of the festival. "Soon you will be flying off to the north with your flock." She bustled to the hearth fire and brewed some of her most favorite tea. The two shared a saucer of tea with kulich, a sweet Easter bread. She covered each piece with pashka, a spread of cheese, butter, and raisins. They savored each bit together. "One for you, one for me," Babushka chanted. "Da, da. My little friend, I shall sorely miss you, but you are a wild thing, and a miracle sent you to me. It would not be right for me to ask you to stay with me forever." When Babushka left her little house, she took one last look at Rechenka sitting on the doorstep. She waved and took determined steps for Moskva with the basket of her precious eggs. She crossed the Liverpool Valley where the caribou mothers were walking their newborn calves. A miracle, she thought. New little lives. A miracle. She crossed the bridge over the Moskva River, and soon she could see the onion domes of old Moskva. The festival was bright and exciting. There were go-karts selling kulich, processions, dancers, jugglers, and laughing children playing and running. Babushka showed her old friends the eggs. Her eggs were the most beautiful in all of Russia, they thought. "Look at them," the elder said. "They almost glow, as if the paint is part of the shell itself." The judges picked Babushka's eggs as the most beautiful. Babushka was so happy. She beamed as she looked at the first prize, a feather bed quilt. As Babushka made her way homeward, a honking flock of geese flew overhead. Babushka gave them a long, lingering look. She wondered if Rechenka was one of them. When Babushka arrived at her home that evening, Rechenka was gone. Alone, she put the new quilt on her little bed. She brewed a cup of tea, ate the last of the kulich and pashka, got into bed with her favorite book of poems, and drifted off to sleep. She hadn't noticed Rechenka's basket. But that night, Babushka was awakened from a sound sleep by an ever so small sound. It was coming from Rechenka's basket, as she hobbled closer and saw a glorious egg. But this one was different from the others. It quivered and moved and made tiny muffled sounds. The egg jumped, bumped, and rolled and pitched in the basket. Then there was a crack, and Babushka could see the very special gift that Rechenka had left for her. All a miracle, Rechenka said. And this little goose remained with Babushka always. The end. So that's Rechenka's eggs. It's a beautiful little story about giving each other blessings when times are hard and looking out for each other. So I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I will have links to information about stuff related to the book in the comments. And this link is shareable, so feel free to share it with anybody that you think might need a good bedtime story, or any kids in your life that you'd like to share a story with today. I hope you all are doing well and are surviving out there. I'm sending you lots of love, and please remember to be kind to each other. Have a wonderful day.